10 feet tall with a blood-red face and a spade-shaped head, clawed hands, and a sickening pungent mist surrounding it. This was a thing seen by 8 people and a little dog named Ricky in the little town of Flatwoods, West Virginia. This is the story of the Flatwoods Monster.
Hi, welcome to the Weird World Podcast. My name's Carrie.
I'm Dean.
And, of course, West Virginia.
What do you mean by that?
Aren't a lot of these things in West Virginia?
You know, it's funny you say that because I'm going to go into actually how many things are in West Virginia. And Carrie didn't know that.
I blame Joe Manchin.
Okay, makes perfect sense. So Flatwoods is a little town, county in West Virginia. It's situated right along Interstate 79. It's right, think the dead center of West Virginia, and this is in the eastern United States for our foreign, that's not the right word,
non-United States-based listeners.
There we go. Probably even a few United States folks.
Yeah,
not knowing where
include me.
Okay.
I have zero concept.
Where West Virginia is?
Well, I know,
south of Pittsburgh.
I know vaguely where it is. My mental picture of West Virginia is lush, green,
gorgeous.
Lots of green trees, and
it's very mountainous.
Yeah.
It's very green. Rivers, mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a rough country.
I'm not sure there's any cities there.
Oh, there are
it's
cities.
It's just all nice country roads.
Carrie, cities. This little city,
ruin
though,
my illusion.
Of Flatwoods, at the time when our story takes place, it had about 300 people. This was in 1952.
Oh.
That's the date of our story. There are about 300 people there. That population, though, has dwindled to about 264 today. So not a high growth. West Virginia is not, I don't know if they're losing population, but they certainly are shrinking in terms of proportion.
Why?
It's just not a growth state. Like
Industry.
I said, it's very, very mountainy,
Yeah.
It's not, there isn't a big city or industry. Coal was a major industry, but that's dying away very fast.
What is the capital of West Virginia?
I believe it is Columbia, Charleston.
No.
God damn it. Now you made me go look. We're going to cut this out. And I'm going to come back like I knew for a fact what the capital was the entire time. See, capital.
No, you're not, because I do the editing.
You son of a... Charleston. I was right.
Oh, I didn't know there was a Charleston, West Virginia.
Yes, Carrie.
Too many Charlestons.
Oh, okay. There's 2 as far as you know.
Oh, there's got to be more than that.
As far as you know. Name another Charleston besides West Virginia and South Carolina.
Google it. I'll bet you there's more than 2 Charlestons.
Oh, my God, Carrie. So this is a story about something strange seen in the backwoods of West Virginia, which is, I'm pretty sure, 98% of the state. It's a place, West Virginia, that has built up a pretty solid repertoire of creatures and unusual things over the years. Of course, you know what the state is most famous for?
Mothman.
At least here in the world of weird is Mothman, of course. It's that terrifying winged creature that haunted the woods around Point Pleasant, which is about 125 miles west of Flatwoods. You can learn more about the Mothman in episode 102 from February of 2019. Not the last time I'm going to have looked up an episode, by the way. I'm patting myself on the back. You know what else you can do, Carrie?
Huh? You watch the movie?
No, way better than that. You can read about that in my book, Strange Visitors, which you can get right now, available on Kindle. Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, you're right.
Same thing.
So that's kind of a internationally famous story by now. Much more famous than the Flatwoods Monster, but still, West Virginia has many monsters. There's the dreaded sheep squatch. That is a white furred thing. I don't know what it is. It's got apparently a dog's head, a ram's horn, the spiral horns, which is the coolest horns in the world, in the animal kingdom by far. And it has a lethal armament of vicious teeth and sharp claws. So the sheep, I guess, comes with the ram part. The squatch, not a clue. Doesn't make any sense.
I pictured a Bigfoot with nice, curly, sheep's wool.
Oh, okay. That'd be cool too.
Yeah.
It's not it though. Well, maybe. It does have white fur, so maybe.
Yeah.
It was first sighted in the 1990s, so I'm going to guess that some secret lab in a dark valley in West Virginia is missing a certain mad scientist's experiment, and they should probably get on that.
Probably.
Speaking of furries, Carrie, tell the listeners about your adventure with furries on Blue Sky. Carrie apparently is drawn the ire of people who don't like furries.
I've been mistaken for somebody who posts furry content, so I've been placed on a list,
yeah.
a block list that blocks furry content.
Carrie, how many times have you posted furry content?
Well, I'm not sure. I've posted pictures of our cat.
I don't know that qualifies as furry content, Carrie.
I'm
Actually really sure it does not. But
there's nothing in my profile name.
Carrie, if people who
or
post
profile
things of
picture,
cats on social media were
there'd be
banned, there'd be no social
90% of
media.
everybody.
So,
I know.
No, it's not that. Furries
know.
are like
I don't know.
are like cosplay, right?
No.
Yes, they are.
Furries, well.
Aren't they? I thought furries were cosplay, people who, dressed up as furry creatures and did cosplay stuff. Well,
I think so. Well, it's not cosplay.
You're not? No?
Cosplay is like anime people dressing up as
furries are people who are
characters.
Furries are people who are interested in anthropomorphic animals or animals with human characteristics.
And isn't there a sexual connotation to it too?
I don't know. You're probably asking the wrong person about that.
Yeah, I thought there was.
It's people who like furry animals. They might dress like them. Sometimes if they have sex in those costumes, good for them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's like the main point though. But it's good that you thought them like that. So anyway, Carrie has been banned from people who don't like furries on Blue Sky. By the way, ping us on Blue Sky and subscribe. Subscribe, follow. So there's also a thing called the Blue Devil in West Virginia. That's not the mascot of Duke University, by the way. It is a blue dog-like beast that's a little bit bigger than a pony. So it's a small horse, I guess, size. So it's a big dog. But it's called the Blue Devil for what reason, I'm not sure. According to one source, it was spotted in 1939 and 1940 in Webster County between the towns of Jumbo and Grassy Creek, as if any of those place names can even remotely help us figure out where the hell this is. It's actually about 140 miles west of Point Pleasant, Mothman's home. As you can see, I measure all distances in West Virginia by how far they are from where Mothman is. I call those moth miles, by the way. As in the American Snallygaster Museum in Liberty Town, Maryland. It's 340 moth miles from Point Pleasant. You ever heard of the Snallygaster?
No.
It's a cool one. It was seen in Frederick County and also the nearby parts of Maryland. It is part bird, also part reptile. You know what? I'm going to save that because I think we're going to do Snallygaster as a quick cryptid corner one of these days. So just wet your whistle with that. It's actually a pretty cool creature. West Virginia is also home to the Grafton Monster. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's a cryptid. It is said to be about 7 to 9 feet tall, about 4 feet wide, has white skin like seals, but it doesn't actually have a head. It just has like at least 2 like glowing red eyes in the middle of his chest, kind of. So I guess that's its head, its face, or something like that. It also is said to have a deep roar that can be heard for miles. I'm going to show Carrie a picture of it right now. Doesn't it look like a monstrous Kool-Aid man about to break through a glass wall and leave the exact shape of the Kool-Aid man?
Yeah.
Okay. It looks a bit like that.
How tall is it?
7 to 9 feet. So it's huge. It's very big, yeah. You can't really tell from the scale there. It's not next to anything, but...
No, that doesn't look...
West Virginia also has a Bigfoot festival in June because I'm pretty sure by now every state has one. They have a thing called the Veggie Man Day, which celebrates the vegetable man of Marion County. That was more or less, I guess, what it sounds like. It was like a stalk of some kind of vegetable. It had like a thin body. It was said to be an alien and had like needles in its suction cup-like fingers.
Okay.
It's pretty cool, you have to admit. I mean, I think you do. There is even a website that touts the paranormal locations in West Virginia. It's called the Paranormal Trail. And you can you get an app and you check in. I think you have to be near them and you get points. And if you go into the site, like say that a lot of them are museums or something like that, you get extra points. Like you score points as you ride along and travel along the Paranormal Trail of West Virginia. It's obviously a tourist thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean
Sounds like fun.
I want to go to there.
Yeah.
Some of the stops include the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in Weston. That I don't think you get to go into because it's closed. There's also the Lake Shawnee Abandoned Amusement Park in Rock, West Virginia. Again, more on that later. I have that's been on my list for a Halloween episode for years and years and years. There is an old prison in Moundsville. There's, of course, a variety of haunted hotels, including the Blennerhassett in Parkersburg and the Hotel Morgan in Morgantown. There's haunted hotels everywhere you go.
Yeah.
There's like 5 or 6 on this trail. There's a ghost tour in Harper's Ferry. That was where John Brown did the whole Civil War thing. I don't know, maybe people died, right?
Yeah,
So maybe
I
they're
think so,
ghost. Yeah. So it's ghost. Maybe John Brown. I don't know if he died there or not. No, he was hung. Wasn't he hung? Whatever. They even have a place called the Cryptid Mountain Miniature Golf in Morgantown. It's 13 indoor holes of mini golf. All of those holes have a cryptid theme to them with a cryptid creature by there. God damn it, I need to go there. Absolutely have to do that. I have to do that. That's where that Grafton Monster picture that I showed you is from. That's a must stop. I'm not even kidding.
That's your next business venture.
I've literally looked up to see what's the biggest. Pittsburgh would be the nearest large airport to most of these places. So it's got to happen.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the Flatwoods Monster Museum in Sutton. And of course, the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant. So we've got the place. We're talking about Flatwoods, West Virginia. Now, how about the time for our story?
1952.
September 12th, 1952 is when our story takes place. So what's going on in 1952?
Howdy Doody was probably pretty popular.
Interesting that's the first thing you say.
The Cold War?
There we go.
Oh.
I mean, just like there's a lot of angst going on. Yes, the Cold War.
Poodle skirts, saddle shoes. I don't know.
Were poodle skirts a thing? Was that? I don't know.
Yeah.
50s? Okay. This is the early 50s, though. So, but it was, the Korean War wasn't going real well. It had already kind of drawn to a standstill. It would go on for another, maybe less than a year, but it was, it was not good. A lot of bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason that Harry Truman didn't run for another term in office.
World War II was fresh in everyone's
was only 7 years back.
Yep.
From the end of it. Yep. Really, the Cold War was on everyone's mind. The Russians had gotten the atomic weapons by that time. There's a lot of fear and dread going on in the country and amongst the, what would soon be, or what really was an economic boom. But there was a lot of angst going on. You know what else happened in 1952? And I'll admit I did not know this. I knew about what was something called the Washington Flap. That happened in 1952, which was a rash of UFO sightings in late July. I didn't know that 1952 was like a golden year for UFOs. It's really at the time when UFOs became a national thing and people were talking about it and thinking about it and looking up into the skies and starting to, when they saw something up there, they thought, hey, is that a UFO? The whole idea of flying saucers started in 1947. As you know, another episode we have to do with the Kenneth Allen sightings in Washington. And it had become, kind of popular, but 52 is when it became huge. There's culminated in these sightings in late July in Washington, D.C., where our nation's capital was inundated by UFOs and UFO sightings. It became a big thing. The Air Force and the nation's government took it very seriously. And these days, it's still, nowadays, anytime you talk about UFOs, you think alien ships, alien aircraft. Back then, you were almost just as likely to think, hey, is this something the Russians have that is beyond the capabilities we think they had?
Right.
And the U.S. Air Force had cataloged 615 UFO sightings in the 4 years leading up to 1952. In 1952 alone, they recorded at least 717 incidents of people reporting UFO. Edward Ruppelt was the head of Project Blue Book, which had recently become a thing. He would later say that, quote, during a 6-month period in 1952, 148 of the nation's leading newspapers carried a total of over 16,000 items about flying saucers. Everybody was thinking about aliens and flying saucers at this time. The media and the government they weren't sure what it was. Again, they thought maybe these are secret capabilities, but increasingly people were thinking interstellar aircraft, aliens from another planet. Life magazine, the biggest magazine in the world, probably, certainly in the United States at the time, had a headline that said, have we had visitors from space? Flat out. Here's a quote. The Air Force is now ready to concede that many saucer and fireball sightings still defy explanation. Life offers some scientific evidence that there is a real case for interplanetary saucers, end quote. And the magazine, the article quoted like Air Force pilots, and they were quote, credible accounts of seeing what they thought were flying saucers.
Yeah.
So September 1952, when this story occurs, remember that this is fertile ground for thinking flying saucers, for thinking aliens if you
Right.
saw something scary up in the sky. So our story starts with something scary seen up in the sky. 14-year-old Freddie May, his 13-year-old brother Eddie,
Freddie and Eddie.
Good parenting, quality
Yeesh.
parenting. Their mom was 32 years old, so do the math. So they were playing with a third friend. Some accounts have this third friend being a 10-year-old named Tommy Heyer. Other accounts have this third friend being a 14-year-old named Neil Nunley. Neil makes more sense because he was the same age, but more accounts say it's Tommy. We're going to say it's Tommy.
How old was Tommy?
Tommy was 10.
Oh, okay.
So 14, 13, 10. But
Yeah.
they're playing football. I'm assuming they're playing what we used to call interception. That was a fun game we used to play as kids. One person's quarterback, one person's receiver, the other person's on defense, and his job is to intercept the pass. Hence the name, interception.
Okay. Or maybe they're just playing football.
Maybe, with 3 people.
Oh,
So
yes.
we're going to say it was Tommy that was part with hanging out with Freddie and Eddie. And they acted like their school playground, playing football very near their house. It's a very, very small town. It was dusk, right around 7:15 p.m. They look up into the sky and they see this bright light flash across the darkening sky. It seemed to just hurtle down in an arc toward the horizon. It seemed like that's pretty close. And it seemed to them at the time that it crash landed just like over the hills in the not too far distance at all, just outside the town, on what they thought to be the land of a farmer named G. Bailey Fisher. So it's like, oh my God, was that a plane? Was that something from outer space? But it seems like this fireball crash landed on the Fisher farm, not far at all.
Yeah.
So this fiery object up in the sky it spooked the kids. It was big. It was scary. It seemed like it was close. So they ran home to the Mays house right there in the neighborhood nearby the school. They got their mother, Kathleen May. She was a 32-year-old beautician. And they just like, oh my God, Mommy, you won't believe what we just saw. Calm down, kids. Tell me, one of you talk at a time. I'm assuming that's what happened.
Yeah, probably.
It's a little playlet. So they told her what they saw. This fireball, we think it crashed over at the Bailey farm. We should go see what's going on over there. So they do. Apparently, this conversation, maybe it was in the front yard, I don't know, but it caused enough of a commotion that almost immediately some other people in that neighborhood glommed on. I don't know for a fact, but they may have gone to get 17-year-old Gene Lemon. He had recently joined the West Virginia National Guard. And I don't know if they went to get
back up,
something like that. Yeah, because otherwise they had the 13 and 14-year-old May boys, 10-year-old Tommy Heyer, and 2 other young teens, Neil Nunley and Ronnie Shaver, must have been nearby because they joined this little group.
Okay,
and they had 17-year-old National Guardsman Eugene Lemon, and he brought a flashlight with him. And this little group would add the mom, and then you add the little dog named Ricky, made the 7 humans a group of 8 that decided to go investigate what the hell's going on over at the Bailey farm. I choose to believe Ricky. He's not described of what kind of dog he was. What do you think he was?
I think he was like little Jack Russell Terrier.
Yes, probably a 1950s Americana. Let's go with it. So little Ricky the Jack Russell Terrier is yipping around, going with him, running up ahead, probably waiting for him, maybe chasing a squirrel, barking at a squirrel up in a tree.
Is it walking distance? Are they walking?
They're walking.
Okay.
Yes. It's not that far away. So they hurry off to the Fisher farm. And when they get nearby, there's kind of a little hill before they get there. And they start to climb up this little hill just outside the Bailey farm. Neil Nunley, he saw something at the top of the hill, and he pointed ahead. And he thought he saw, and the others did as well, this kind of flashing or pulsing red light up at the top of the hill. Now, this is kind of semi-forested now. There's trees along the hill, and there's trees at the top of the hill. And so he points up ahead and, hey, you guys see that? There's a red light up there. What the hell is that? Gene Lemon takes a couple steps further up the hill, getting a little bit closer. People say he was like 75 feet, maybe 100 feet away from the top of the hill. He got his flashlight and he's shown it right to the top of the hill on whatever that red pulsing light was. That was when everyone there saw it, the Flatwoods Monster, or at least Gene Lemon saw it first. But everybody saw some kind of a creature that would be later said to be a 10-foot tall thing. It would seem to be standing next to a tree. It was human-like, but it sure as hell didn't seem human to any of the folks there. Lemon later said that the thing was, quote, a tall man-like figure with a round red face surrounded by a pointed hood-like shape. That is, the head was kind of like shaped like the business end of a shovel or a spade. So a lot of people will call it spade-shaped. That you hear that a lot in the literature about this.
Yeah.
Or maybe like the ace of spades of a deck of
That's what
cards.
yeah.
You can think of that too. And I'll show you a picture here in a minute. And folks, we'll put our picture of, it's a really good picture from the Flatwoods Museum of what this thing looked like. It even has a person next to it for scale. And it really does look a little bit like a face and with a hood behind it, maybe enveloping it a little bit from behind.
Yeah.
That is sort of ace of spades like shaped.
Mm-hmm.
It had little hands or some kind of hands where they were twisted claws that were poised kind of beneath the head. And then beneath the hands were what was called something like a dress or something like a garment of some sort that was kind of had maybe folds, like, I don't know, a muumuu, some kind of a garment.
I picture like a big cape or something.
But it enveloped
cape.
it. But it totally, think of a hooded cape,
Yeah.
but it's, tied off in the front or something like that. I don't know if there's any ties, but you know what I mean? It goes all around the body of this creature, this 10-foot tall creature. And it seemed to be made from metal, though. So think of the idea. Some people were later compared to like some kind of a robot, maybe shape. Maybe it was mechanical or some kind of a, suit or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Some people actually literally called it a dress at the time.
Yeah.
And it did not appear to reach all the way down to the ground. So it seems that this creature, this 10-foot tall creature, was actually hovering or levitating a foot or two off the ground up at the top of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
So this is terrifying. Most terrifying for all these folks, though, was the eyes. The eyes glowed kind of an orangish color, orange yellow maybe. You hear other colors, including blood red, because blood red's scary. You'll hear that in some reports, but it seems like it was more orangish, at least in the initial stories about it. And some people even cite that as these eyes kind of protruding out a little bit. So at this point, most of the group has also noticed a mist around it. A foggy like mist that seems kind of hang close to the ground a little bit.
This is very theatrical.
It's very theatrical. It really is. But this mist seemed to make them, after they noticed it, at least after they saw this creature up at the top of the hill, it made some of them nauseous. Some would later vomit from it. It was kind of this sickening, had a pungent smell to it. So it's not just a fog.
Yeah.
This fog has some kind of
a gas.
A gaseous thing that's irritating us and making us nauseous and stinks.
Swamp gas.
Yeah. Pardon?
Swamp gas.
It could be some kind of swamp
We're
gas.
near a swamp?
I don't know. Yeah. No, it's more of a forest. It's more, I think woodsy, hilly.
And is this midday? What?
No, remember they started, they played football at dusk, about 7:15.
Oh, okay.
So by the time they're out there, it's probably more or less early night time.
Okay.
The sun has gone down, but it's not like pitch black yet.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so they're looking up there. See, this creature has all these characteristics that are freaking people out. You have this pungent smell. Maybe they're starting to feel sick already. They certainly would later. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly the creature possibly hissed. Possibly it didn't hiss, but it maybe made some kind of a noise. And then it sort of came at them. Kathleen May would actually say it almost like bounded toward us.
Ooh.
It then seemed to sort of float or glide, again, almost like it's levitating toward the group. It didn't get very far because the creature, if it was going to, never got a chance to attack because those 7 brave explorers were the hell out of that place. Lemon, the National Guardsman, the 17-year-old National Guardsman, he led the way out because, quote, he responded by screaming and dropping his flashlight. This is Kathleen May said this. He's like, thanks, Kathleen. I appreciate it. And he fell down. He fell back. He was like, ah! drops his flashlight. So now they don't see it as well. And he falls back down. So they're seeing this thing for probably literally a few seconds.
Right.
Think about that. Because this is it.
Yeah.
This is the entire sighting. This is really the entire event. And his screaming and falling down signaled everybody, we're gone. And they fled down the hill and they were out of there.
I'm assuming since he's 17, he's maybe signed up, but he hasn't actually
Probably
gone
yes.
into
He's still in town. Yeah.
He's still a child.
No, for sure. No, I'm not saying he's not.
Okay.
But he's like, let's go get Gene. He'll lead our little posse to go see this. What the hell happened over the Bailey farm? And he's like, I'm out. But still, literally, that's in there. I read that it's in the original story in a Braxton County newspaper. And it's literally, she says, Gene, he screamed and dropped his flashlight. Oh my God, he must have hated her.
I wonder if he's still alive.
I would be so pissed. You could have kept that part out. The group returned to town and they told the police, and I guess they went, I don't know, they're downtown, but they told the police, and I guess nearby there was probably a newspaper office because the local newspaper publisher named A. Lee Stewart heard about this, I think, as they're telling it, unlikely. He published a newspaper called the Braxton County Democrat, probably doesn't exist anymore, certainly not in West Virginia. And so he says, hey, let's go check. He grabbed his shotgun, a couple other local worthies joined him, and they went up back to the spot. I don't know who, but some folks from the original group went with them, maybe even the entire group, now that they had guys with guns with them.
Yeah.
And so it was no more than about 30, no more than 60 minutes after the event that this group got back to the farm and it started this kind of investigation. Stewart said later that he did smell something a little bit foul, a little bit pungent in the air. But other than that, they saw nothing. They saw no sign of the creature. They saw nothing that indicated any kind of tracks or something like that.
Did they talk to the Baileys?
I don't know if anybody. Like I said, I think this was on the way to the Bailey farm.
Oh,
I don't think they got
it.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, the hill I think was just before the Bailey farm.
Okay.
So I don't know if anybody continued. They weren't sure as hell wouldn't go the rest of the way of that hill. Now this little group here with the publisher and his guys, I assume they went up to the top of the hill where they said the creature had been spotted, and they didn't see anything. They didn't see any sign of any creature. They just smelled a little bit of a pungent smell, but those guys didn't get sick like some of these folks who were there originally did, some of the original 7 folks, and little Ricky the dog. At some point that night, it's not clear, but I think fairly soon after, I don't think it was with this original group. I think they went out just a little bit later. It could, though, have been with this original group with the editor, with the publisher and his group. Mm-hmm. But a couple of local cops did go out there. And they went up the hill. They led them up the hill, and they did an investigation. And they not only saw nothing, but they also said they didn't smell anything. Again, accounts are terrible in these things, as you know.
Yeah.
That's why I read at least one article written at the time. It didn't mention the police, but most sources do mention these police. So I'm not sure if they went a little later, because this group led by Stewart did indeed smell something. The police said they didn't smell anything or hear anything or see anything.
Right.
So they just thought, okay, you guys just,
got scared.
You got scared. You freaked each other out. This is nothing. We're going home. Descriptions of the creature in all these stories, they vary a little bit. As you can already kind of see, it was generally the Flatwoods Monster is said to be about 10 feet tall, though. But some estimates got it all the way up to 17 feet.
Oh, geez.
I'll have a quote later from the police about that. His eyes were kind of orangish. His face was kind of reddish. Some describe the eyes, again, as blood red, because I think that makes it scary. I don't think it really was. Mm-hmm. Some even said the eyes were greenish orange.
What do you mean some? These are still the original 7.
No, this is, I mean, there's so many accounts about it that you just never know. A guy named, you might remember him, his name is Gray Barker. Does that name ring a bell with you at all? It might not. He featured in our story about Men in Black and Albert Bender. I'll mention that in a second. But he wrote an article, a very prominent article, 4 years later for a major magazine at the time, a decent sized magazine called Fate Magazine. It did paranormal things and amazing stories, things like that.
Yeah, I remember that magazine.
Yeah. So he wrote an article for that, and I think, and we'll talk about him later, but I think some of the air quote details come from him.
Okay.
It was, has various descriptions, but still there's a central thing there that the shape of the head was kind of hood-like or spade-like. The body was some kind of dark color, black, dark green. Some people even say, again, blood red. Nonsense. Some people call the face green and say it seemed to glow. Those also seem like accretions and exaggerations. But let's think glowing eyes, hood, some kind of a, like you said, a cape or something like that beneath it, possibly made out of metal, this hood or something around its head and over its head that seems to be something spade-like. And of course, the clawed hands in front of it. That's the basic kind of configuration of the Flatwood Monster. Now I'm going to show Carrie, and again, we'll show you folks in our feed a picture of the Flatwoods Monster from the Flatwoods Monster Museum in Sutton, West Virginia, helpfully with the adult male standing next to you. Carrie, describe that for us.
Well, I mean, that's like 20 feet tall.
You know, I thought the same thing that I actually kind of measured the guy because they have it levitating.
Yeah.
So he's above where the guy is standing. He's more like 15-ish. Probably not. I know it seems like very, very, very tall. It seems like a lot more than 10 feet.
Yeah.
So it's not a great scale, perhaps. But again, some accounts have it as high as 17 feet. That may be what the museum's going for, a little bit of, embellishment there. It does kind of
look like a robot.
It does a little bit,
like
doesn't it?
Rosie the robot.
A little bit, yeah. So it has a round face, big bright eyes. Whether they're that big, this was drawn decades later. It does have this sort of like like an upside down spade.
Yeah,
I guess depending on how you hold your cards. That is quite an amount of it around the head, and then these little clawed hands in front of it, and a little dress. And it's levitating.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Flatwoods Monster. So this is a weird thing. This is not like other aliens. This is before there's what we now have is, remember, aliens in the beginning were all over the place. There's so many aliens.
Yeah.
I want to do an episode on an alien taxonomy of what aliens look like. And they have really gravitated towards what we now think of gray aliens in terms of like abduction stories from the 80s and the 90s and things like that. They all became kind of those, the kind of big eyes, slit mouth, tiny nose, if any, kind of smallish and skinny. Kind of think of the Roswell surgery hoax film from the Fox television in the 90s.
You know what? But it's interesting how Hollywood depicts aliens in like horror movies and stuff. They're always very insect-like.
Yes,
that's gigantic insects.
Because they want them to seem so other and so scary. Also, because you're going to kill a lot of them often. If they're like in Starship Troopers, where they kill thousands and thousands. It's much easier just to blast and explode lots of insect aliens than it was if they were kind of human-like, I think. But they also insects are creepy to humans. So a 7-foot tall insect is terrifying. We're creeped out of
an inch-long insect. Imagine a 10-foot tall insect.
You're goddamn right we are. Yeah. I hate cockroaches. I step on them. I'm afraid of them. You might be asking, what about physical evidence? Was there any actual physical evidence? Initially, as I said, no one saw anything. Right? But there was that, quote, pungent mist. That's kind of like physical evidence, and there were certainly signs of that. And the first folks there, or I guess the second folks there, said they kind of smelled some residual odor. The original group of 7 people and Ricky definitely smelled that, and it was overpowering, and some of them got sick. Again, the police, though, which was still that same night, smelled nothing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Authorities came back the following morning to give a search in sunlight, and they found what they called, quote, skid marks, unquote, in the field near the hill, more on the flats below the hill. They found these skid marks in the grass, I guess, like a meadow.
Yeah.
And they also found a, quote, an odd gummy deposit, unquote, on the ground around nearby those skid marks. Some people thought, and still do think, that this was evidence of a UFO landing site. Did a UFO land, and this was the alien? Maybe even crash land, and this was the alien up on the hill. Maybe he was trying to get bars service to call for help because, he crashed, possibly. I don't know.
Or she.
Or she, you're right. Or they. They're genderless in most, I think, alien races. I'm pretty sure. Some thought so at the time, again, and more so do today. The story was immediately presented, though, as a UFO story.
Yeah.
In the first stories, they said flying saucer. Mm-hmm. So it was automatic. The frame was instantaneously UFOs. That's why I want to talk about all the UFO stories that were going on in 1952. Something like that, immediately it was presented as a UFO. Some of the members, again, of that brave party that tramped up the Bailey's Hills suffered from irritated throats the next day and still were vomiting. the next day. So they were, at least some reports have them being still feeling sick the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the 7 people and little dog Ricky were genuinely affected by what they'd experienced. One report has Ricky like fleeing from the hill with his tail between his legs.
Yeah.
So allegedly, Ricky didn't like what he saw either. So reactions, as you know, you can kind of tell at first, most folks thought that it was a whole lot of kerfuffle about nothing.
Yeah.
Certainly the authorities did. The police did. The quote, the state police laughed off the reports as hysteria, end quote, according to a newspaper. The quote goes on. They said the so-called monster had grown from 7 to 17 feet in just 24 hours. End
Yeah.
quote. So they were treating it very skeptically right away. Now, they may have written it off as hysteria and mistaken identity, but I don't think they thought it was a hoax. They didn't think they were being messed with.
Right.
Because
doesn't sound like it, but
well,
they didn't think it was.
Remember the Mothman story where those 2 couples, those courting couples who saw the Mothman in their car when they're going to make out in the TNT area, were shaking and terrified. That's what they described these folks. These 7 people were scared shitless from what they saw up on the top of that hill. And they were, everybody who saw them speak said they were very, very genuine. John Gibson was a friend of Neil Nunley, and he heard the story from Neil the next day at school. And Neil was still pretty shaken up about it. Neil also said that one of the other boys had, quote, peed his pants, and that he that's how the story about it, and that Ricky the dog had like yelped and fled.
Yeah.
So there seems to be genuine fear going on here. And again, Eugene Lemon screamed, tossed the flashlight down, and got the hell out. So they were scared. The local newspaper publisher, remember A. Lee Stewart, he, the guy who went with the shotgun up with that little group, he said, those people were the most scared people I've ever seen. People don't make up that kind of story that quickly, Stewart said. Now, again, if the timing is right, within I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, because remember, the group was back there about 30 to 60 minutes later, so presumably they got back to the town and telling the story within, I don't know, I'm guessing 15 minutes away, whatever.
Yeah.
He's thinking, well, they all came up with this story, really quickly. Of course, scared people aren't necessarily making up a story. It doesn't mean it's an alien.
But they're talking about it as they're going back. And,
everybody thinks they were telling the truth as they saw that truth and as they interpreted that truth. Yeah. But it was pretty goddamn good copy, even if no one thought it was, a real thing, because they presented it. The local paper called it a Frankenstein-like monster. And again, the local paper immediately started talking about flying saucers and things like that. The national media then picked up on it very quickly. Again, they were eager for these kind of stories. They were printing these stories all the time. These were on radio news and national TV news as well. And it created a pretty big national buzz, at least for a little while. Kathleen May and Gene Lemon were actually invited to CBS news station in New York City to be interviewed live. So, which is a pretty big deal.
Very big deal.
Yeah. They sent a car for him, I'm sure. So the Flatwoods Monster was kind of a 9-day wonder for a little time, but then it faded very quickly.
Yeah.
But it got enough attention where even the U.S. Air Force, they sent Project Blue Book to go check it out.
Oh,
and they did. And they sent a couple of investigators, and they listened. They took stories and interviewed people and went up at the site and everything. But their verdict was basically exactly in line with the local police. They filed it away quietly as a mistaken identity / hysteria, and the story quickly faded from the public view almost immediately. Now, we have to talk about explanations, of course. That's what everybody expects here at the World Podcast, and that's what you're going to goddamn well get. The explanations for it were generally not really even brought up for decades. Because again, it was like, oh, was this some kind of flying saucer or some kind of crazy monster that they saw? The local police, though, thought it was hysteria. Let's interview them. Story's done, and it's forgotten. It wasn't until decades later that folks started writing about it in the world of the paranormal and kind of enjoyed a renewal of interest to it to a certain extent. Have you ever heard of it, by the way?
No.
Okay. It's quasi-prominent in the world of weirdness.
Okay.
I've heard of it when I was a kid.
Sure.
But I'm strange. So, and the alien was kind of unlike most aliens. But again, at this time, there were lots. It was almost, you can see how aliens were at first. There's all this imagination. People are seeing all kinds of different aliens, and then they kind of winnow down to a couple of types later on. There is still plenty now to this day who think the Flatwoods Monster was a UFO encounter.
Mhm.
That one website that I looked at portrays the event as an alien crash landing, which does seem to be
Well, but
with the tracks and
what
stuff.
happened to it?
Hold on. I
Fix
have one.
itself and
Kind of, yes. But it's an alien crash landing, and the alien was caught in Gene Lemon's flashlight, like in the process of trying to get, I don't know, pulled out of there, escaping, whatever,
Yeah.
getting picked up, right? What's the word they look like in spy shows? They always say, I need a extraction.
yeah.
The alien was trying to get extracted. The mist, this website says, to answer your question, Carrie, was the aircraft evaporating. So the mothership came and got him. They couldn't leave behind evidence. So I don't know. You press a button and your spacecraft, it's like a self-destruct.
You evaporate into a little pile of goo.
A pungent mist that makes people sick, but also, a pile of goo.
But there is some sort of residue left over.
You're right.
That's pretty clever.
It's very clever.
Yeah. That's some technology, man.
We should do that
Yeah.
with everything, especially Teslas.
Yeah.
All of them now. So, some say maybe the pungent gas was the alien's skin reacting negatively to our atmosphere. If it maybe was out of its ship or something like that, maybe its suit wasn't working. But some people say that the pungent was the gas like mist was that. I hope it wasn't for that alien's sake.
Yeah.
That'd be painful, I imagine.
Maybe not.
I would think so. The metal dress, obviously, that was some kind of space suit.
Yeah.
Not spacecraft, sorry, some kind of space suit, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even, some people say maybe even some kind of powered suit / craft, I guess.
Well, it had to be if
Right.
it was
To levitate, right?
Yeah.
To move and to glide, and to float toward them. So it had some kind of a powered source to that suit itself. Some people say it was like an exoskeleton, though, which is, and that the tar-like ooze found the next day was somehow from the flight of this creature. It's propellant. I don't know exactly. Quote, it is thought to be powered by the entity itself instead of an outer fuel source, said one website, which is, it's really tempting just to put the words, it is believed in front of any bullshit you make up and pretend that's a real thing, which is what this guy did. Others think the thing in those backwoods near Flatwoods was not an alien, but, Carrie, what's another something that would scare, that could be 10 feet tall, has some claws, red face, Carrie? A demon.
Oh.
Yes, there is. I found a website, stumbled across a website that's absolutely convinced that this thing, and not just making the argument it's a demon, but like, no, this is settled. It was for sure a demon. Obviously, you idiots. They quoted a Tennessee Republican congressman named Tim Burchett, who said, quote, there's mentions of extraterrestrials in the Bible, and it doesn't question my faith one bit. It doesn't hurt or damage it, end quote. I don't know why he said that, or because his whole story is about this thing's a demon, and he quotes this Tennessee congressman talking about extraterrestrials. I think he might be implying that aliens are demons. What we think as aliens are actually demons, I think. Maybe it's that demons are aliens. Not 100% sure. Not a super coherent website. But I think he's implying that aliens are demons.
Okay. Well, the whole thing, extraterrestrials are in the Bible, so it's fine. That doesn't.
Maybe, yeah.
That
it
doesn't
doesn't.
make sense.
That's what I say. I don't know. He's like, well, here's a quote that proves my point. It kind of doesn't. So.
People are weird.
He also wrote that the, quote, the red face can be seen as a powerful symbol. In various cultural contexts, red is often associated with danger, anger, and the demonic, end quote.
Okay.
In Christian iconography, it's frequently used to depict Satan and hellfire, which is true, reinforcing the notion of a malevolent nature. The creature's pulsating face, which it wasn't, by the way, adds an almost hypnotic element as if it were drawing in energy or projecting malevolence. The claw-like hands of the creature are another disturbing feature that aligns with traditional depictions of demons, end quote. I don't know if any of that's true.
Okay.
But again, I love the confidence that's, it's like, this is just facts. I mean, you guys should probably realize this eventually, but this is how it works. Oddly, this is weird. There were supposedly, well, actually, it's not weird. There were similar encounters not long before, one before September 12th, a few days, and one on the next day that were kind of similar. A few days before the 12th, a woman named Audra Harper, who lived about 5 miles north of Flatwoods, she's out walking in the woods with a few friends, and she said she, quote, saw a ball of fire, end quote, on top of a hill. Sound familiar?
Yes.
The group just thought, okay, that's just a farmer like burning some stuff, right? No big
Yeah.
deal. They keep walking. They're walking away. Audra looks back though, and she sees what looks like to her like a tall man-like figure, but it's in kind of silhouette, and it's walking from that top of the hill where the flames were. So she's a little freaked out. That's as far as the story goes. I guess they ran like Gene Lemon. I don't know.
Or they just kept walking.
Yeah. Audra, what are you waiting? Nothing. I'll catch up. I don't know. Only Audra apparently decided. Wouldn't she say, "Hey guys, turn around"? Apparently she did not.
Huh.
The day after the Flatwoods event on the 13th, a couple named George and Edith Snitkowski, fantastic name. They were with their 18-year-old month child, and they're driving.
What?
18-month child?
18-month-year-old
child? It's an 18-month-year-old. You don't know.
You said 18-year-old month child.
18-year-old month. Carrie, it's accepted. All those three things are acceptable, from what I understand. Their 18-month-old child, I don't know what you're talking about. And they're about 20 miles south of Flatwoods, driving along in the car, and kind of like a rural byway or something. And it's dusk, so it's starting to get dark when all of a sudden the car stalls out and does not work.
Oh.
So George gets out. He's trying to fix it. When he and his wife smell something, they said it was a nasty, like a sulfur-like stench. And they look up to see, what are they going to see in the sky? A bright light. They see a bright light in the sky. And then, I don't know exactly how this happened, but apparently, out of nowhere, they see a 10-foot creature with clawed hands. And in this case, a reptilian-like head near them, near the car. So they're naturally freaked the hell out. The creature got a little closer to them. It touched the car, and then it just sort of drifted and moved off into the forest along the side of the highway. And that's it.
Huh.
George gets in, turns the ignition. Car works just fine. So I don't know if he's like an interstellar AAA, or if like, ooh, that was my bad. I caused it, because we all know UFOs cause cars to stall. So it's like, oh, that's my bad. Let me fix it with a touch. And he did.
Huh.
Yeah. So these things supposedly happened around that time. Of course, these stories were not told until after the Flatwoods Monster event made national headlines, so take with it what you will. More recently, though, in 2000, the skeptical researcher named Joe Nickell, he investigates these things all the time. He investigated this story in 2000 in a lot of depth, and he wrote about it. And he decided the culprit was, and I know a lot of our listeners are going to get pissed off on this, but what was it, Carrie?
Can I say?
You can say it.
An owl.
It was an owl.
That's what I thought immediately.
I know what you're thinking. Not another goddamn owl. Wasn't this what they said the Mothman was? How about those aliens that harassed that nice family in Kentucky in the Kelly Hopkinsville event of 1955? Actually, yes to that one, but no, it was a sandhill crane that they posited as the Mothman, but it was indeed owl, or maybe a couple of owls, that they said was the cause of the Kelly Hopkinsville incident.
Hopkinsville.
I will never be able to pronounce that city correctly. Also on our list to go to.
Also, an owl killed staircase lady.
So owls do some bad things, including scare the shit out of people in the woods in Kentucky and West Virginia. So,
except I don't believe that one.
Oh, which one?
The staircase.
I know you don't.
He killed.
Yeah, he did. He for sure did.
Yeah.
So stop blaming owls, people. By people, I mean the dickhead who murdered her. So, you're probably screaming right now. I get it. I know that reality checks can be a little bit irritating at times, and this is one of those. But let's look at that. Nickell actually has a pretty solid case, though. So let's start with the bright light in the sky that kind of started it all. Turns out that was, with almost dead certainty, a meteor.
Okay.
There was a very prominent meteor shower. It was seen in 3 states, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Maryland at the time. It lasted a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does everything like that a meteor does. The description, the flight path, all checks. Here's the thing, though. You think, well, wait a second. They thought it was right above them and that it crashed into a farm just a short ways away. That's actually a very well-known phenomenon associated with meteors. They can very often seem much, 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 much closer than they are because they're pretty big and they're very bright. So it's a common illusion that they'll seem much closer. And it's also when they do go beyond the horizon, people all the time think, oh my God, that crashed right close by. It did not. It didn't even crash. It just went beyond the horizon to the low part of the sky and burns up before it even hits. And 99 times out of 100.
That
or
makes
more.
perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So it's this visual is a well-known mirage. Well, I guess it's not that well known, and so they not with complete reason. A lot of people fall for that and think meteors are close by. This is something that's very common, and no blame on them. But how about that pulsating red light on top of the hill that they saw when they first got there?
Yeah.
Or at least that Neil saw when he first got there before Gene Lemon put his flashlight on the creature and they saw the face and everything like that. There was supposedly a red light. Nickel believes that was an aircraft beacon or a navigation light from a passing plane. And sort of just at the right time, it kind of flashed off something on a tree at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Like an owl. And that presented it like they said the face looked red-like, and they saw, and that would explain the pulsing, the flashiness of the light. It could also explain some of the coloration.
Oh, I don't think I buy that one.
This doesn't seem very plausible to me.
It's not gonna be close enough.
And wouldn't they hear a plane? I mean, I guess you're so scared you're not hearing a plane, but if it's close enough to it's low,
cast light on something,
you would hear it. You'd think,
yes.
So I'm not buying Joe Nichols' part of that explanation.
No, I don't buy that
think
one
so.
either. Yeah.
And it does apparently, or he did apparently argue that it was an airplane, not like an airfield. You think, okay, an airfield, yeah, absolutely,
right?
That could be true. From what I read, he's positing that it's an airplane. I wasn't able to find or get access to his original article in 2000.
If there's a stationary pulsating red light, everybody would know about it.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, if it's that close to your house,
there's one of the most famous UFO stories from England in Rendlesham Forest, the most famous UFO case from England, and the sort of skeptical explanation for it, we haven't done that one yet, we will, was in part a pulsing red light like 5 miles away that just people had just is part of your world. You don't think about it. And when it's in the context of something that's scaring you, that's something you sort of remember they're walking up that hill, when they're walking toward the farm after seeing that meteor fall that they think is some kind of a fiery craft, they're already pretty keyed up.
Yeah,
very keyed up. So they see a red light.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was almost certainly not an aircraft. I don't buy that from Joe Nickell on that part at all, but I can't tell you what it was. But how about the owl? So you have to remember, again, this group is spooked. They saw a light. They think there's been a crash nearby. They're ready to see something that they don't understand. Again, UFOs and aliens were seemingly everywhere, every day, all that year long. They were ready to see something weird, and they're just sort of primed for it. Which, by the way, the Blue Book investigators, that's exactly how they explained it. That they were primed. That it was a form of mass hysteria, but it's primed by expecting to see something strange, and they did. So Gene Lemon, he initially said that his first thought was that the thing up on the top of the hill was an opossum or a raccoon. Keep that in mind. That's interesting, because then, so he thinks it's that. When Neil Nunley says, "What is that?" he looks up. He thinks, "Is that a possum? Is that a raccoon?" Which would be, of course, in a tree branch. When he then shines the light on it, and it's not a possum or a raccoon, but if it's an owl, that's not what he expected to see.
Yeah,
he may not have seen an owl, not in a bright flashlight at the top of a hill with his eye shine. Owls have, of course, they have eye shine. And so he looks below it, and he the foliage or something like that makes it seem like there's some kind of a human-like shape beneath it. And that's classic pareidolia. We're forming patterns in the things we maybe more recognize, where they're not really there. And so he wouldn't have recognized, in all likelihood, an owl's face, especially when he's expecting to see a raccoon or a possum. And so he just sort of imagines this metal dress below it.
The metal part is a little bit weird.
The metal part's weird too, and that's not in everybody's initial especially when Kathleen May said it seemed like fold-like material. That doesn't sound super metal. So the metal part, I don't think was kind of universal. But that spade shape, look at an owl's face. That's spot on. That's if you look at the Joe Nickell thinks it's a barn owl. You see the white of that face is very much like heart-like and spade-like looking. And the darker feathers around it would have probably melted. They would have seen the whiteness. And if there was something reflecting off it, an airplane, unlikely. But if there's something's reflecting off it, it could take on a strange coloration. This is not a perfect.
No.
Don't get me wrong. This is not perfect. I'm not going to say this is for sure an owl.
Right.
It's plausible though, for sure. So he sees the owl on a branch. He sees the body from pareidolia, the terrified teenager. Remember, he's 17. He kind of forms that body-like shape. And then what do you have next? You have the claw-like things. And where were they? They're poised right beneath the head. Clearly, that's the owl's talons.
That's what made me think of it.
Me
initially,
too.
Yeah.
That when you think of a heart or spade-shaped face, and they thought it was a hood, but it's really a face, and clawed, shriveled, to Kathleen May, quote, shriveled hands in front of it, you're looking at an owl on a branch facing you without any, almost, I mean, that does seem like pretty good. It also, the gliding toward it without making noise, that's classic owl for sure. You do not hear their wings. Their wings have feathers to muffle virtually all sound from them, because that's how they get those rodents on the ground. So, and the glowing eyes. That's classic owl eye shine. You flash that light and you see a glowing eyes. Of course you do. The sickly mist, though, the pungent smell. Nichols says, here's another one that I'm not sure about. I don't think he did a good job with this. He said there is a foul-smelling grass that's native to the area, and he said they just smelled that, and in their freaked-out nature, just kind of exaggerate. It was really more fear and the tension that caused them to be actually some of them vomited, to be physically sick and feel bad the next day. That's just the fear. The tension, that's a psychological reaction to it. But the fact that they said they smelled something, and they all said so, and that next group also said they smelled the remnant too. Yeah. He looks like he was trying to find something real for that. And he says there is some kind of nasty smelling grass nearby. Again,
wouldn't they know that?
They would know that. They would have been around that grass, presumably, all the time. Unless it's just in a patch and they've never been to that hill. I don't know. Yeah. So that one is a little weird. The fogginess is easy. It's just fog. Then when the police got there, they said, there was kind of a normal mist around the hills that hung down as the weather, as it gets colder in the night. That's nothing. It's the smell that's kind of unusual, though. The smell and the red light are the two things you can see that are not super well explained by this owl hypothesis. The shape and the behavior of the Flatwoods Monster is, I think, very plausibly explained by the owl hypothesis, but not with complete certainty, for sure. So it's not perfect. It is plausible. And again, you have to have this group primed to see something weird, and they see this thing that they do not recognize. Again, they would have been looking at it with the flashlight for a couple of seconds. Right. So it's a quick glimpse. It's not right next to them. It's a little bit distance up a hill, and then they leave, and it's never seen again. So you can see how that can happen. It's no shame on them. They freaked out. Yeah. I probably would have screamed like a girl, dropped my flashlight, gotten the hell out of there, and come back with the group with guns. For sure. I don't think I would have thrown up, though. I hate throw up, so I would stop myself from throwing up. Oh, the marks on the ground? Yeah. Turns out that one's pretty easy. A local man named Max Lockard, he said, no, I went up there first thing in the morning with my 1942 Chevy pickup, and I was driving all over the meadow there in my pickup. And by the way, it leaks oil. That'd be the ooze, the tarry ooze that people found. So that one's an easy one too. His truck leaked. Okay. So the Flatwood Monster, I'm going to just spend a couple minutes. The Flatwood Monster is kind of a useful case study in how these stories kind of progress. There's the initial story that kind of gains local traction, and then if it has an interesting enough detail, and this one did because it's a monstrous thing, that kind of sets it apart, it gains widespread attention. And this one did exactly that. Often you have more witnesses sort of glom onto the story. Remember the Mothman? Yeah. The two couples saw it, and then suddenly 40 people supposedly saw it in the next few days. That's kind of classic. Or the Madagascar of Mattoon. That didn't happen here. My suspicion is because the immediate reaction was, oh, you guys freaked out and got scared. So it would have been kind of embarrassing to say it happened to me too. And there was those two other stories supposedly. And because Flatwoods is a tiny town. Right. There's not enough people. Even Point Pleasant had several thousand residents. Yeah. This is literally 300 people live there. And those include little kids. And then there are those embellishments, those accretions. The creature goes from 7 feet to 17 feet tall. You have new details in these kinds of stories that make it, and they always seem to make it inexplicable. We've talked about this before. Like, think of ghost stories where he said, "Oh, these 5 things happen in this ghost story," and some skeptic says, "Well, wait a second, normal thing X can explain that." And then the next iteration of that story has a new detail designed specifically to refute normal thing X as the explanation. That's the kind of thing that happens in these stories all the time. This one has some of that. The Flatwoods Monster is things like the fireball has been described as they described it as flying saucer shaped, which is made up, and that there was an object up in the top of the hill. Like a 26-foot diameter object, not just the creature, completely made up. So this one too has had things that accrete to it. In this case, to make it more UFO-like and also more inexplicable.
Right.
And the eye shine of the thing became like orange, yellow, and bright as searchlights. That's just not true. Kathleen May also is said to have seen the pulsing red light from the front door when the kids pointed. It's just a lie. So you see these things to make it seem like, well, it had to be a UFO. She sees the pulsing light. No, she didn't. They didn't see the pulsing red light until they got right up there and were looking up at we think that owl's face. In this case, one of the proponents, I mentioned Gray Barker a minute ago. I think a lot of the exaggerations here were from Gray Barker. I don't know that. I could not get a copy that was accessible to me of his 1956 Fate magazine story, so I can't tell you which of these are from him. But I can tell you that dude was he was a fabulist, which is a very nice way of saying he was a liar. But he was. His friends said, "Oh no." He'd smile as he told you all the bullshit he made up a story about. That was his job. His job was not portraying the truth. His job was to sell articles to newspapers and magazines. Yeah, he was a local. His start was kind of this. He became a national paranormal writer, but his start was really kind of the Flatwoods Monster because he lived not too far away. So, a lot of the embellishments probably come from him. He was a storyteller. And then the last couple stages of this are that it kind of fades away and there's a renewal or renewals. And that fits here too. There was a renewal in the 1970s, which I'll tell you about in a second. And then there's been a more recent renewal, and at some point, if it sticks, it kind of becomes canon. And so you do hear, like when people cite, "Oh, there's some, how do you explain this UFO story, Mr. Skeptic, the Flatwoods Monster?" That's one of the stories that are often posited as, well, okay, this proves the case. So it has kind of reached sort of a stage of canon. Mm-hmm. And the last stage is when you sell plush toys on Etsy, which I find to be the best stage of them all. In terms of like why, I won't go into this too much, but why do people, how do these stories get started? Sometimes it is just pure invention. Think Travis Walton and Fire from the Sky, episodes 154 and 155. Also a chapter in Strange Visitors, the book you can get on Amazon right now. I think more likely, though, they're genuine misidentifications. I think this case was for sure that. Sometimes it's like people who they are walking around at night and they see Venus or they see a really extraordinarily bright light and they think, well, that's got to be a UFO. They don't realize Venus is freaking humongous. Yeah. At certain times of the year, it looks huge. This just happened with us recently. We were recording this in mid-late January, and I don't know if Venus. I meant to ask Tim, our friend Tim. He's a little mini astronomer. He's an amateur astronomer. Is
he's
Venus
not mini. He's full size
actually
adult.
Tall? But yeah, you're right. You're right. I misspoke. But he's an amateur astronomer. That's what I meant to say. Amateur, mini. Again, I've heard those words used interchangeably. So I wanted to ask him, is Venus like really big right now? Because it looked huge.
It is.
And Venus has been mistaken for a UFO thousands of times. So those are kind of those misidentifications that are genuine, but without priming. The other type of misidentifications is some kind of priming. Like remember the Phoenix Lights story? Mm-hmm. Which was on episode 275, and it's going to be in my upcoming book. I don't have a title yet about UFOs, the Phoenix Lights. That was a case where when people went outside and started seeing these lights in the sky, they were kind of floating softly downward. We'll get into it later. Well, actually, go listen to the episode. But there was kind of two parts to that. The second part was these lights slowly floating. A lot of people there'd be little groups out there. And if someone said, hey, that's a UFO, oh my God, is that a UFO? The rest of that group is primed to now frame that as a UFO. And this is the Flatwoods Monster is kind of like that in the sense that UFOs were on everybody's mind at the time. They were keyed up to see something weird over when they finally got to the Bailey farm because of the light in the sky that seemed like it crashed just less than a mile away. And so this was one of those misidentifications that's sort of I made up this term, a primed misidentification as opposed to just straight up, oh my God, Venus is a spaceship kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened here. You expect I mentioned the Mad Gasser of Mattoon, episode 190 and 191. And a ton of those like that, where it seems like in that case, the first 1, 2, or 3 seemed independent and genuine. That I smelled a gas and I got sick, and then there's 40 more that were almost certainly just sort of primed misidentifications. Yeah, if that makes sense. And then of course there's all the people that milk these things for money. I mean, it's really unfortunate that the paranormal has become very profitable lately, and so there are lots of people out there milking it for cash. You see that a lot with some of the, like the tic-tac-toe UFO sighting and the Go Fast videos. Tic-tac. It's not the tic-tac-toe. That's a different one. The tic-tac UFO sighting and the Go Fast.
Also known as the hashtag UFO.
It was the weirdest shaped UFO ever. And Go Fast. Those are genuine. Those videos are fascinating. They're interesting. They're intriguing. Unfortunately, a lot of hucksters have glommed onto that case and are cashing it in, and even have shows on basic cable and are writing books and things like that, and have institutes and such. There's that kind of propels that story or increases these stories in a kind of a gross and I would argue for those of us who are trying to figure these things truthfully is unhelpful, because they make it harder to look at these things with an open mind. Mm-hmm. The Flatwoods, West Virginia is for sure on my paranormal bucket list, whether it was an owl or not. I want to go there. There's a sign outside that says, outside the town, as you approach it, it says, quote, home of the green monster. It's another name for it. It's also sometimes called the Flatwoods Phantom, but mostly called the Flatwoods Monster. There is a Flatwoods Days Festival every year. We better time our trip correctly.
Wow.
The Flatwoods Monster Museum is a permanent fixture. It's in nearby Sutton, West Virginia. That's a town about 5 miles away. It's a little bigger. Remember John Gibson? He was the schoolmate of Neil Nunley, the witness. He, in 1970, started selling like monster ceramic lanterns and figurines to, make a little money, but also to boost awareness of the town and raise money for the JCs, a local charity and charitable group. Mm-hmm. So that later, the museum was founded later, and I think he's dead now. But when he was 81 years old, he had a really good attitude. He said, quote, I don't believe in the Easter Bunny. I don't believe in Santa. And I really don't believe in the Flatwoods Monster, but I do want to boost our community. If you know how I can get a 26-foot fiberglass green monster statue made for Flatwoods, let me know. That would be a big draw, don't you think? He told that to Joe Nickel in 2000 before he died. He was 81 years old, I believe, at the time. So that's the Flatwoods story. It probably was an owl. Don't know. I don't think I'm buying the smelly grass or incredibly coincidental silent airplane for the red noise. So there's still some parts of the story that I'm not sure what happened there, but it is a good example of how we see things that are just it seems like no way. How could you possibly go from owl to 10-foot alien? You really can. Yeah. You especially when you're primed to see something weird, when it's like in this case dust, the worst time to have any kind of eyewitness sighting. Your vision is at its worst.
Well, and I was going to say, we don't have to have a logical explanation for every single detail of their story, because eyewitness accounts are notoriously bad and inaccurate. So just because you think you saw something or smelled something doesn't mean you really did.
And even the multiple witnesses too. What happens there is that I don't know this for a fact, but presumably they probably talked amongst themselves on the trip back into town before they got there.
I'm sure they
So
did.
It's very likely that they're seating each other with what, his face was red, wasn't it? And everybody says, okay, no, his face was red. We don't know.
Yeah.
Did only 1 or 2 people start that and everybody sort of agreed? I don't know. Like I said, there were multiple. Some people said the face was green. and they had different colors for the eyes. That's classic.
Yeah.
Of what was, of even a group. You think a group is helpful because it means you're all seeing the same thing. It's not one person imagining it, but it can be actually very detrimental to the truth, embedded within a story because they do sort of seed one another and kind of cloud one another.
Yeah. But we also know when it comes to colors, people perceive colors differently.
Yeah, that's
true.
That's true.
Two people can be looking at the same thing and see different colors.
Yeah. And when they saw, something up in the sky, something on the top of that hill, and the head is 10 feet tall, you probably would think that's a 10-foot tall creature.
Yeah.
And your eyes would see some kind of a body beneath it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it didn't get all the way to the ground. I'd have to look at what the
who knows
foliage looked like around underneath that branch. But that all those, so I would have to concur that it probably was a barn owl, but I don't blame them for being scared shitless.
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm on their side.
Yeah, me too.
So that's the story of the Flatwoods Monster. We're going to go to there in the not someday.
Or we're not.
Damn it. Don't ruin it for me.
Okay, maybe we will.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Carrie, anything you want to say?
No, thanks.
Okay.
we appreciate all of our listeners.
Okay. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.